Welcome back. Today we want to talk about one of the most important figures in the history of Christianity, the Doctor of Grace, St. Augustine of Hippo. He lived in the late 4th and early 5th centuries, specifically 354 to 430. And he's important because he's one of the most important non-canonical thinkers in the history of the church. That simply means one of the most important non-biblical figures. So obviously somebody like Paul or the gospel writers are going to be more important than Augustine. But once you step outside of the canon, the Bible, then we have people like St. Augustine, who is extremely influential. He wrote a variety of different books. In fact, we have more writings from him in antiquity from any other writer, Christian or non, quite a few writings from him, and they touch on a variety of different areas within the life of the church. His most important or most famous book is a book that I think every Christian should read, and that's why we're going through that here in this course, and the book is called Confessions, Augustine's Confessions. Now, this text is often considered the most important, one of the most important texts in the history of Christianity, and it's sometimes called the earliest biography or autobiography memoir in Western civilization. But that's not entirely accurate. I think Augustine would find that to be a strange claim, because to say that this book is an autobiography is to say that it is a book about Augustine himself. And if you were to say that to Augustine, I think you would find that strange, because he would say that this isn't a book about himself. He would say this is a book about God working in his life. So the very first line of the book, Augustine is quoting one of the Psalms, and he says, "You are great, Lord, and greatly to be praised." Right? So right from the first sentence, Augustine has our focus on God, not on himself. So better to say that it is a book about God working in Augustine's soul, but then even that's not sufficient enough, because Augustine would say that he is simply an example of the larger important phenomenon of how God works in all of our souls, right? So Augustine eventually comes to Christianity. He receives and accepts God's grace, and this is something how we all can and should live our lives according to Augustine.